Hi there, guys. Ken here. You're the Apprentice. Happy Sunday, everyone. And we are jumping into the third video of our card creation week. I have tried my best to tie in the normal art supplies that we use into these three card making videos. Water Soluble Wednesday, we used watercolors. On Friday, we used watercolor pencils. And on today, we are using alcohol markers. Now, I'm actually using a different variety of alcohol markers. I think 3 or 4 different brands. The Sanjoki alcohol brush tip marker. I'm using Royal and Lang Nickel Azure, which is a traditional marker with the bullet and chisel tip. I'm using Prismacolor Premier traditional markers with the bullet and chisel tip. And I'm not sure if I used another one, but I'm pretty sure those 3 brands. I am working on Bristol board. Now, this is a really economical brand. This is Soho by Jerry's Autorama. It's one of their house brands. And I've been using a lot of Soho paper products over the month of December going into January simply to test out that brand of papers because it's really economical and I've heard quite a bit about it. So that's the Bristol board that I'm working on. The flower that I have done for this card is actually a Altenew stamp. I simply stamped it out on a piece of scratch paper, put some graphite on the back of that scratch paper, transferred it onto the Bristol board so that I wouldn't have the hard black lines to start with. Now, the reason I do my stamps is like that, especially when I'm using alcohol markers, is because I tend to kind of continue to draw as I'm coloring with alcohol markers. So I do my fine lining at the end so that I can make sure that it's within the lines. Just a little trick that I learned. The colors that I'm using, of course, for the flower, I actually used 4 different shades of red across those 3 brands of markers. I used 3 different shades of green for the leaves, and I think all 3 of those were from the Sanjoki set. For the center of the flower, I used 2 different yellows. One was from the Sanjoki set, one was from the Royal and Lang Nickel Azure set. And I'm doing this basically to show you guys that you don't have to have, nothing has to be brand specific. All of those markers will work very well together. You're just looking for the different range of colors from light to medium to dark saturated tones. It doesn't matter what the name or actually what the tip of it is. Although I will admit brush tip markers do tend to mind you of painting versus illustrating. Now, the way I tend to use my markers is a little bit different from most people. 3 to 4 colors. I always base in what I'm coloring with the lightest color and then build on it from there. It offers me more saturation, and because I have a painting background, it just feels more intuitive to do it that way. Now, all alcohol marker artists won't work that way. That just happens to be the way that I work. Once I got the flower all colored in and at the tone that I wanted it, I erased any of the graphite marks from around. I grabbed a really economical sentiment stamp that said love. I think I may have picked it up from Michael's in one of those value packs. And then I jumped in with my black fine line markers to go ahead and add in the line detail so that it would look like a stamp. Now let's jump over to turning that into a actual card. Now, once I was finished, I took the illustration to my printer, laid it on the flatbed, did a color copy. Didn't realize that my printer was running out of red ink, so I'm actually only making 1 of these cards. Now, this card is 5x7, and my furnace just kicked on in the background, so forgive the noise. I'm using some yellow Park Lane cardstock from Joann's, and the red card base happens to be a box of like 60 or 70 pre-made cards that I ordered off of Amazon months and months ago to make journals with, and I'm just trying to get those used up. Now, I cut off some offcuts of that yellow Park Lane paper in order to add corners on the end of the illustration. Now, what that's going to do is help me give it a framing effect once I actually attach it down to the backing paper for the card. I used that same yellow cardstock, did a little pocket offcut for the inside of the card, used a heart embossing folder to emboss hearts in it to give it a little dimension and a little bit more pizzazz, and to make it go along with the whole Valentine theme. I grabbed my fabric tack and I'm adding it to the back of my illustration, and I am centering that onto the backing panel for the card. As you can see, because of those little corners I put on the end, it gave it a really cool frame effect for the card. I really do like the way that turned out. Now I'm just going to add some fabric tack to the back of my card front and attach it to my card base. You will see that the entire card front was a little bit shorter than the card base, so I am going to grab my paper trimmer and trim that up just a little bit. So the card truly turned out to be more like 5 by 6.5 versus 5 by 7, but still I think it was a really cool way it turned out. I'm grabbing some clear stones because I'm really trying to get them used up. And this card will probably be available in the Etsy shop, just so you guys will know. Shameless plug. I'm going to throw those rhinestones on around the love sentiment, and I'm going to throw a couple of the rhinestones at the top across the border just to give it a little bit more pizzazz. Now I'm going to get to feeling like, I'm missing something, and then I realized that when doing the illustration, before actually photocopying it, I never went in with my white fine liner in order to add in any of the highlights. So I'm going to switch over to grabbing my fine liner, white gel pen, in order to add in some highlights, and I'm going to grab my black fine liner just to add a little bit more fine lining detail in order to make the stamp stand out. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up, guys. This was the third card in the week of card making. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you some insight into how I create cards and a little insight into how I use alcohol markers. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Don't forget to like the video, share, jump in the comment section, let me know what you think. Keep in mind the video description has all of the relevant links. Don't forget that if you're new to the channel or returning, please hit that subscription, and just keep painting and crafting.